right, Jeffrey Melvin, what are you grateful for?
Oh gosh, so many things. It was funny. Yeah, we call it the Sunday scaries of like, oh man, we got to get back in the routine. But I'm actually really grateful for my routine and
Yes.
schedule. Like, glad to dive back into it for the next 3, 4 weeks and just power on strong.
Love
So
it. Love it. It is a great season. That is a great sweater. I'm excited to do industry update with you today. I know Rick will be joining us soon. So when he does, if you see him, let's just pin him. We're going to start off just going through some quick numbers. All righty. Can you see my screen there, Jeffrey?
gotcha.
All right, so this is Cobb County. Wanted to jump in and show you here. We're not going to look at the December 2nd data. That is most likely not updated. But if you go back to Thanksgiving week, active inventory was kind of in alignment of what we've had over the last 30, 60 days. A little bit of a dip, but not much. Pending was at 146, not a huge significant 5 to 10% difference in what we had early November, and closings were at 167 the last week, which is a little less than October combined, but very similar altogether. All right, I'm going to jump back over. Let's see what we can see. Fulton County next. Just bear with me. All right, Fulton County. Here we come. All right, Fulton County data. If we look at it, scroll all the way over to October, November, and we're looking at this Thanksgiving week, 847 active inventory, pretty in line with the weeks of October, not much change. We've got pending data at 249, which is, you can see, an alignment, and closings at 212, 242 the last week of October, November. All right, Jeffrey, any tells, anything you're seeing in that data?
No, the 242 closing last week. I mean, that was crunched into 2.5 days. So that's actually a fantastic report in terms of closings. I love it. I know it's the end of the month, but I love seeing that many closings in a holiday week. That's fantastic.
Very strong. Rick Hale, welcome.
Hey, thanks, buddy.
All right, I asked Jeffrey, but what are you grateful for coming off Thanksgiving week?
Ooh, I mean, family and friends always comes to the top of mind when you think about gratitude. The quality of my life is directly correlated to the quality of the people in it, and I'm blessed. And I see some awesome faces on this call as well. So I'm grateful to be here.
Love it, love it. All right, Rick, Jeffrey, we're going to jump into the articles for today and get started. All right, article number 1, home buyer interest surges on slight pullback in mortgage rates. So basically the article here summarizes, and we'll get these out to you if you're interested, is the modest decline in mortgage rates has spurred an increased interest from home buyers, basically indicating that renewed activity in the housing market is on the move, and experts suggest it says that this could help rebalance the market if trends continue. So, gentlemen, what long-term implications do you foresee to buyer confidence if rates continue to decline in our current environment? Jeffrey or Rick?
Slow and steady wins the race. I feel like
Right.
consumers generally appreciate consistency and continuity, and fear is the number one reason people don't move forward when opportunity arises. And I think the narrative today is a lack of volatility and an increase in consistency.
And I think it brings a higher quality buyer as well. It's buyers who have been tracking and are seeing the consistency and are seeing that, understanding that slow, steady race versus these volatile interest rates with volatile buyers. It brings a stronger buyer.
Well, there's no worse feeling than locking in a rate, and not necessarily. I mean, most lenders today, I believe, have some capacity to float before closing if something does something significant. But at the end of the day, there's no worse feeling than, striking a deal on a house and then that uncertainty around either overpaying or locking a rate or missing an opportunity, or what if next week, next month, next quarter, things improve. So I love the prognostication around all of next year being a steady, consistent, and potential drop, a consistent reduction in interest rates too. So it's a cool narrative, but I think if a half a point, the right house comes along, a half point should not be the decision-making trigger.
Love it.
And this data is fantastic too on your buyer strategy sessions and buyer consultations of we're not anticipating a massive drop in June. So, I mean, I know everything changes regularly in our industry, but hey, you know what? Let's start now. We don't need to sit around and wait for this expected massive drop coming. We can be strategic and start our process now.
Yeah,
I love
Mika's
that.
right too. If you can negotiate a half a point, or pay down the rate if that's really the determining factor. So thanks for sharing. The bottom line is there's a positive solution and answer to every problem, and the way you address it and approach it and the energy you bring to the conversation will dictate the outcome.
That's it. That's it. And, Fannie Mae, MBA, the Mortgage Association is basically saying for the next 2 years, they're predicting a steady interest rate, very small. And Rick, you've been in this market before, but if you've been in the business the last 4 to 5 years, you haven't seen this stability. So this is so new to a lot of people. And what I found is people don't just buy, they buy because. And this is just another factor of, people still have reasons to move. This is a steady stability market. And if you're looking for the up and down or the major dip, it doesn't look like by most major people predicting it like that's going to happen. It's going to be stable for the next 2 to 3 years is the most current. And, these are always right and always spot on, but it's the most current. All right, let's jump over to the next article. Can you guys see latest inflation? Beautiful. Yep. So latest inflation data ups the odds of a December Fed cut. And basically the summary around this is the latest inflation data shows a slowdown, raising the likelihood there of a rate cut by the Fed in December. So with such a move, obviously mortgage rates, some home affordability, and some overall market activity could pick up. We saw today in some of the stuff that Luke sent us earlier, but interest rates came down just a tidbit. It was positive news. But what opportunities or even challenges do you predict this rate adjustment could bring for housing inventory levels?
I mean, it's a confidence thing. It really is. I mean, people are seeing this, hearing this. They're going to make different decisions. Pricing wise, I mean, I'm hoping it's driving inventory. I'll tell you that. I hope that confidence level is driving people to list their homes because they're confident that things are balancing out and feeling safer in the economy.
Yeah, as we squeeze the divide between, the historically abnormally low interest rates in the high twos and threes that a lot of people captured a few years ago, the closer the smaller the divide, the more likely people will make strategic moves based on personal needs and opportunities versus just locked into a rate that they feel they'll never get again.
Love it. Agree. Okay. Pending home sales up 2%. This is Riz Media. October saw a 2% increase in pending homes with all 4 major U.S. regions reporting gains. So all positive news there. It's a positive sign amid an otherwise challenging real estate landscape. So increases in every single sector, every single region. What do you guys attribute that mostly to?
I'd say opportunity. People saw opportunity and seized it. I think we also suffered a little bit. They're comparing year over year, and I think opportunity. That's the answer.
Mm-hmm.
And I think rates are not the reason not to buy. So they're not using that as the justification. But if it's October data, it really doesn't even, I think the exciting thing is it doesn't support that theory that everyone waits till after the election to make decisions. Clearly, some people made decisions in August and September that ended up closing in October.
Yeah. Jeffrey, anything to add?
No, I mean, that's it. Yeah, I nailed it.
All right, let's keep on with the positive news today. Number 4, Home
Mojo Monday. This is a Mojo Monday. It's a good
That's
thing.
right. That's right. I hope you guys saw it, man. We're talking about big whys. And that's the bottom line to all of this is you need to have one-on-one conversations, confirm what their real why and motivation is, and just eliminate the obstacles, which these articles, to me, create a smoother runway and opportunity to take off and with, a new initiative. And that's putting your home in the, putting yourself in the home you deserve.
Yeah, so that's what this is. Home sales rise in October, countering market seasonal trends. And basically what it's saying is despite the trends, there's opportunities for agents in every single market. I mean, some of our market centers saw some of the biggest Octobers we've ever had. And then that was coming into an election, kind of what you said. So Rick, give us an idea this time of year. What were some activities that you did to take advantage of winter time? Because seasonality is the thing, whether we like it or not. But what I've seen is top agents have less seasonality in their world than the average agent. So what are some things that you took advantage of?
Well, I would try to buck the trend around, seasonality being a limiting factor or belief. And in fact, I try to flip the script and the narrative to say, hey, if you're serious about buying, the good news is people who have their houses on the market now are really serious about selling. They're motivated. They're not, spring and summer. A lot of people will, do the so-called test the market, just throw it out there, see what happens. And everybody kind of follows each other down the active listing pricing path and often overpriced. Where I think people in November, December, there's a reason their house is on the market in the middle of Thanksgiving and Christmas, and they're willing to compromise their personal, space for the sake of potentially selling their house. So it could be a corporate transfer, it could be life change, it could be, there's just, my son just bought a house. In fact, it was in the fellow passed away. He was 97 years old. And so they had to sell. The family had to sell. And the interesting thing is, and so here's the second half of that. One is recognize the market of the moment and opportunity. People have to sell. The other thing is if buyers are out running around, they have to buy. There's a reason they're not hitting the pause button regardless of interest rates. So now could be the ideal time to list your house because of lower inventory historically, fewer competitors. And so you have a shot at being, cream of the crop in a season with fewer, again, competition. But my son found this house and got a tremendous deal. In fact, he was outbid by investors, but, it goes back to finding the story behind the story and getting personal and connecting. He wrote a personal letter to the sellers who were three siblings that remained and, were in charge of selling it. And they wanted to sell to a future young thoughtful, kind, good person. They didn't want to sell to an investor, and they took his terms and conditions, allowed him to close January. I think he had a personal requirement, wanting to close in January, and they took 10,000 less on the house just because of the story he was able to, share about how excited he was about his future and his family trajectory in that home. And so again, it all comes back to the story. People don't buy data, they buy the story. And if your skill set, if you're limited in skill set around taking the data we're sharing and creating and crafting a story that wraps their world, you're missing a real opportunity. So I would always try to create stories and ideals and opportunities. And, if you lock down before December 31st, you can grab Homestead early. I mean, there's a million reasons why waiting may not be the best answer, but instead of telling people, you ask enough compelling questions that they self-discover that truth.
Love
Well,
it.
and the key in all of this is what Rick's sharing is leading our clients through that process. It's not just us believing it. It's us being able to communicate it, us being able to lead our clients. And I Rick was on a podcast, I guess it launched 2 weeks ago. But one of the big takeaways that I got from it was discouragement leads to destruction. So prior to destruction happening, and you can look at it in real estate, prior to the relationship with your client dissolving or your client getting, just falling apart because they're discouraged, it takes us leading them. It takes us being knowledgeable, strong leaders. And Rick, part of that, most all of it goes back to knowing their why.
Yeah.
100% knowing your clients' why. Why are they buying? Why are they selling? You figure that out, you can navigate 90% of the issues.
It's on. Well, that's the fuel that creates movement, right? Emotion, the word motion is in the word emotion. If you're not tapping emotion and connecting at a heart level, you're missing real opportunity.
Hmm.
And here's one more piece of advice, Matt and Jeffrey, and for everyone listening, make sure your head and heart's right. It's one thing to always think about, okay, where are they? Where are they going? If you're not right, you're not going to line up and connect at the level that you could. So I
Right.
know for a fact there are a tremendous percentage of our industry that hits pause as well and is like, hey, I've had a pretty good year. I'm just going to take a deep breath and, Thanksgiving to Christmas and just go, cruise control. I used to double down. I would double down in my contacts, my conversations. Holiday season is the greatest time of the year to connect with people because, like most of our industry, they've hit pause to some degree. And so they're more available. They're emotionally connected. You asked a great question early on, Matt. What am I thankful for? Man, every human being on the planet who celebrates Thanksgiving has some residual energy around gratitude. Perfect time to call and go, hey, you know what? I didn't want to call on the day. I mean, you had your fan, but I just wanted to catch up this week. December, by the way, was almost always my best month of the year. If it's not
Wow.
my best, it was top two or three when I was actively selling and often asked why. I think it's just because I became more interpersonal and more relational and more intentional. And instead of cruise control, I dialed it up.
So good. And in all of this, I'm hearing that to do any of this, you have to be in relationship and actually communicate with your people.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It's a
Yeah, I
great
mean,
time to call out
this
and
is
go,
a
who do you
waste.
know that I should know that is like you? Like this is a great time to expand your database. Go on a mission strategically. I was thinking about this morning as I'm reading these articles. I'm like, damn, there's a lot of redundancy in the data, and that's actually a good thing. And what are we going to talk about? And I thought, well, one idea was pull out a list. I've got, in fact, we should post it. Maybe our assistant can post it at some point, but it's a network your way to success list where I've got maybe 50 occupations. You could Google or AI and go, what are the top 50 professional industries or occupations? And then overlay that against your database and make sure you have someone in every single industry just as a way to snipe for new opportunities and new people. In other words, instead of calling and just saying, who do you know that I should know? Say, who do you know that's your dentist that you love? I want more dentists in my database because dentists are awesome sources, not just for referral, but I can help others find good dentists once I know who's great. And so it's a kind of a reciprocity move, if you will. But go through your database and make sure you're covered. Attorneys, I mean, fill in the blank, doctors, who's networked and connected to quality people, those people need to be in your database. And if you call and go, hey, I'm looking for some quality professionals in these three areas, who do you use and love that I might be able to refer business to? And so coming from contribution makes it a really easy question and an easy call to make.
I love it. I'm going to actually go into, based off this conversation, a little trainer mode, if you guys are okay with that. And it all reminds me of the system I was taught early on. And that, did you know, Rick and Jeffrey, that there's 3 seasons of real estate?
Tell me more, Matt.
Jeffrey knows because I've taught this before. He's going to
I'm,
play along.
I'm
So,
intrigued.
3 seasons of real estate. And we love systems here. And a lot of what we're talking about is this seasonality. So, the first season is what's called the fall cleanup. And we just came off the fall cleanup because it goes from August 15th to November 15th. And what you do during the fall cleanup time is a cleanup of the database. So we collect humans all day in our database, but honestly, as realtors, 90% of the time, we're very bad at organizing that. And during this fall cleanup time, August 15th to November 15th, the way I was taught was it was a great time to look inside of your database, really clean it up, really refine it, really make sure you have contact information. And then after that comes the season we're in, which is the winter of renewal. And in the winter of renewal, that goes from November 15th to January 15th. That's a 15th, if you can't tell. And winter of renewal is that time period Rick was just talking about, which is holiday season. There is no excuse. There are so many things coming up. during the holiday season that you can contact your consumer about, that you can show value about, that you have an excuse to call them and inform them and get in the relationship with. And, whether it's a Thanksgiving gratitude call or Christmas plans, or you invite them to something like Jeffrey did where he had Santa Claus pictures, any opportunity, it's a great time of year to do that. And then, do you know what the last season is, Jeffrey?
Spring.
If you do all that, and don't judge spelling because I don't know if I spelled that right. Spring of explosion. So if you do all of that right, from January 15th to November, you will be extremely busy and have a lot going on your calendar. And all we're talking about is, what if you did this every single year? What if you took advantage of this every single year in this time frame to get out there and communicate for any reason whatsoever with your clients? What do you guys think about that?
I mean, does anybody have like somebody in their database or in their contacts list that they're like, gosh, it feels so awkward calling them because it's been 2 years since I spoke with them. We don't have that excuse this month. Like that excuse mindset is, throw it out the window this month, because Christmas and holiday season is the best time to connect with those people. So even if you don't call your people that you regularly communicate with, make it a part of your challenge to connect with the people you haven't spoke with or connected with in 2 years or more this month as well. It's so easy, guys.
Well, if you open your contact management list and you can't easily detect or know exactly when you spoke to them last, it's time to speak to them again. And it's time to take better notes. By the way, I dropped the contact spheres list from my networking class into the chat. So if you want that list as a teaser or as a reminder of different areas you may or may not have included in your database, it's available. It's in the chat.
That's great. Great
Yeah.
document.
The other thing I'll share with you, Kelly Chansey, the Buckhead team leader, is a very, very, very strong agent. And she shared with us a great plan. We're sharing it with all the offices that came from her. But it's all around lead generating during the holiday season. And it starts in December. She's starting it today on the 2nd. And on each day of the month, the databases call with your last name, assign letters, and it even says wishing them holidays. It's not a business call. You get leads from this plan, and the purpose is to nurture relationships, which is all we're talking about. So she even sent out this great holiday lead plan for command and lead gen in KW command or your database. And it basically goes to what's the system we use at Keller Williams, Jeffrey? D2 what?
DTD2.
Yeah,
Do the
100%.
database twice.
So Kelly breaks it down where you hit every one of these during the holiday season, from A to M, B to M, B to N. Basically, breaks down the last name for you to be able to contact and wish them. And I know we're sending it out to our office; all the team leaders will. But I thought it was a great plan and worth sharing.
Can I tell you a secret, Matt?
Please.
90% of the people in your database want to hear from you. They will be excited to hear from you. They're not dreading your call. They don't think you're being salesy. Mika gets it. They want to hear from you. They will be excited to talk with you.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would ask the question: when's the last time your insurance agent, your lawyer, your financial advisor, if they called you and said, Jeffrey, Rick, how's your month of December looking? What do you have planned? Would you be upset with them?
Absolutely not.
Who gets that call? Okay.
I've also actually, just so you know, I'm
Go
working
ahead.
in the backdrop here, trying to help arm you guys with some accountability tools. One is a list of contact spheres. The other is what I call the perfect day. And back in the day, I was reminded that the war is won daily, not weekly or monthly. And this was by Gene Rivers, my good friend Gene Rivers, who said, how many of you have goals? And it was at an ALC clinic. And everyone raised their hands high. And he said, how many of you have really big, exciting goals? And everyone raised them higher. And he said, how many of you know for a fact you're going to hit your goals? And about 2/3 lowered their hands. And, you know, this was also in defense in February or March. So it's early in the year. How do you really know? But at the end of the day, he was like, well, if you lowered your hand, you're an idiot. And those were his words, not mine. And it struck me odd that he would choose to call all of my people idiots. But at the end of the day, he said, here's why. There's a formula for contacts to connections to appointments to buyer and seller agreements to contracts to closings. And if you understand the economic model and you reverse engineer the perfect day, you cannot fail. And I just remember leaving thinking that was brilliant. We get so hung up with annual and monthly and quarterly, you know, goals. Really, it's about staging enough perfect days that lead to perfect weeks. And the best we could do, we had a mastermind a few weeks later with the same group, and we came up with the idea of a perfect day where we, at the top of this form, you can download it. I just put it in the chat again. You list all of the potential sources for connecting with people so that you're reminded, put it in your reticular activator, your subconscious brain. And then before you go home, the day before you know, 5 p.m. before going home, list the 20 people you're going to connect with in a meaningful way the following day, their name, their phone number. You eliminate distraction and noise and don't do anything until you tackle that list first thing the
Mm.
following morning. If you did that for 2 or 3 weeks straight, I would be stunned if you don't have new business and you've not expanded your database. So have
100%.
more perfect days. You know, dumb this thing down, make it simple. Don't complicate it.
Rick, you know, you mentioned earlier putting on your oxygen mask first, making sure you're right first. 21, 28, 35, 62, 97 days straight of doing this sounds amazing. But how do you, only about 1 or 2% of people will do that. What advice would you give to someone around that activity or doing the right things over and over? Because it's not natural. It doesn't always feel good. At the beginning, what would you have? What advice would you give on that? Because consistency is everything, right? And it seems like very hard for us to stay consistent in that action.
Do it once, do it tomorrow. Get up before you go home today. List the 20 people that you haven't touched. Look into your database or your phone or whatever your directory is, and list the 20 people that you feel have the highest potential influence, capacity to have a good conversation, or that might, you know, lead to something better. And list them and do that tomorrow. Once you've done it once and it's gone well, and hopefully it goes well, and realize it may not be the first day that goes well. It could be day 2 or 3. It's like marketing. There's a, you know, for every 100 blind pieces you send, you may get a 2 or 3% return. Who's to know when the 3% shows up? It could be the first three of the second 100. And all that said is start with one day. Just commit to one day, getting up early, you know, lean into the miracle morning, do something physical, go through the saver strategy of, you know, scribing affirmations and, you know, visualizations, exercise, read something positive, you know, stage one perfect day and then see how it plays out and prove yourself right. We're all made up of, we're habitual by nature, me included. If I get out of the habit, it takes a complete reset to regroup and start over. Let tomorrow be your one day, first day back, regroup. Don't wait for a resolution in January.
Fantastic. Jeffrey, would you add anything?
No, I mean, nailed it, Rick. Yeah, you know what? The only thing I would say is Kim Jeans. Those of you all know Kim Jeans. When I was a new agent, told me one day, she said, "Hey, look, you get to that your list of people you're going to call today, and you don't feel like doing it or you don't want to do it. Just send them to me. I'll call them." So, same challenge to all of y'all. If you don't want to call your people today, that's fine. Send them to me or Rick. We'll call them.
Yeah, I had a Kim Jeans and a bold coach moment, and then I'll let any questions you guys have pull up, and we'll get out of here. But it was Kim Jeans or a bold coach, and it was, hey, tell me about how many contacts you made while you were at work today, and I think I said like 4, and they're like, all right, call your wife and tell her what you did the last 3 hours.
Hmm.
Well, and that comes
Ouch.
back to accountability, Matt. If you're gonna stage your first day back tomorrow, make it great. Let someone that you respect, that you will not let down, know that's your intention, and ask them to check in on you at lunchtime and see how things are going, and then see how. That's awesome advice.
Love it. Rick gave you a couple of actionable items you can take away in the chat. Rick, Jeffrey, I appreciate you guys so much. Everyone, thank you for being here today and have a great week. 3 weeks till Christmas. We can make the most of it. You can literally set up your year over the next 3 weeks by intentionality.
There you go. Take care,
Bye,
everybody.
guys.
Bye.